the latest episode of 305 guys here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. We always tell you, make sure you like, subscribe, turn the notifications on. That's how we get you more content. I want to thank everybody who joins us here regularly. We'll get to some NBA on Thursday. Today, we're going to talk a little NHL and NFL, some Panthers and some Dolphins. We're sponsored here by our friends over at Prize Picks. You can play NHL and NFL there, as well as NBA, MLS, golf, tennis, esports, and much more. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You get $50 to play right away. Prize Picks, the official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Again, make sure you use the code 5, and that's how you'll get $50. Not the number 5, F-I-V-E. All right, Alex, Panthers lose last night. I was watching in a bar in downtown Fort Lauderdale. This was kind of quiet. Well, everybody was out for Cinco de Mayo, but nobody was really watching the Panthers. But anyway, they fall behind 4-1. Yeah. They made it close. They end up losing 5-4. Beautiful goal. I can never pronounce the third line goal. Lundell to Lester. I can never.
Luostarinen.
Thank you. I'm terrible at it. That was gorgeous.
And you know what's funny, because I'm capable of saying it, but a lot of times if I'm doing a live show and I try to say it, I screw it up. And I'm actually going to be working on the radio broadcast tomorrow night, and I know I'm going to have to say his name. So Luoster.
You'll have to because that line has been their best line, actually. That line with Marchand. They do score 4 goals, but they fall behind by too much. And Toronto had the home crowd going. It was loud there, and they're going to be dealing with that. Obviously, there's revenge that the Maple Leafs won here. It's an excellent team. They were the best team in the conference during the year. And yet, what was so funny about this was that the first round, which actually the Panthers kind of had the same points as Tampa in the regular season, and yet everybody picked Tampa. And then just because everybody sort of reminded us of what the Panthers reminded us of what they were, then everybody flipped in the second round and everybody picked Panthers, and they kind of got the ESPN mush in that game. What did you take from the game?
I was happy that they fought back and made it a game, because I'm kind of hoping that they can, I know that people have differing opinions on momentum. Every game is a different game, and Paul Maurice will be the first to tell you that, right? That you're not, just because, you made it 5-4 when you were down 4-1 doesn't necessarily mean you're going to start scoring goals, next game. But I think they can take some confidence out of the way that they fought back and made it a hockey game down the stretch. I am relieved that Sam Bennett didn't face additional discipline for the hit on Stolars, which, and I by the way, I didn't realize, well, maybe I should have realized this, but how many Toronto Maple Leafs fans are on X or Twitter? Because all I've seen for the last 21 hours is people complaining, or it lasts however many hours when the NHL announced no additional discipline. A bunch of Maple Leafs fans complaining about that. They wanted Sam Bennett kicked out of the NHL for that. I didn't think that there was intent there. So I'm relieved about that. And, going back to game 1, Ethan, we talked about this late last week. There was more pressure on the Maple Leafs for that opening game, right? And we talked about this with Alex Baumgartner, that, being the home team for that series and having the sort of pressure that comes with, playing hockey in Toronto, there was more pressure on the Maple Leafs. So they did what they had to do, and, they got home ice advantage in the series. So I would love to see the Panthers answer tomorrow night. I'm not calling it a must-win game, but you're venturing into semi must-win territory, because for as magic as these Cats are, you fall down 2-0 to a really good Maple Leafs team who does maintain home ice advantage. If that happens, I'm going to be a little concerned.
Yeah, I would be too. And I do think that their response in game 1 matters. I just didn't think they had the jump quite early. They seemed a little overwhelmed by the circumstances early, which is weird for them, considering some of the environments that they've been in. The Tampa series, I think, came easier than we expected, even those of us who thought they would win that series, and maybe they weren't quite as sharp as they needed to be. Bob obviously needs to be better. That's part of this. And their first-line guys, I think, need to get a jump early. That game was called really tightly. There was a lot of special teams play. I'm curious to see. Typically in these series, you would think they would extend it the same way, but typically in these series, the same is true of the NBA. When it's called one way one game, it's called a different way the other game. So I'm not sure it's going to be called exactly the same way. Maybe they'll let them play a little bit more. I actually think letting them play a little bit more will play to the Panthers' favor. Obviously, there's going to be a bounty on Bennett in this game, so we'll see how the Panthers handle that. They've been very good in the past of not losing their focus. We saw last year in the postseason, Boston completely lost their focus with the Panthers when things started to get too physical. So I don't think that'll be the case this time. Too many veterans been through this thing. I don't think that will be an issue. I still like them in the series, but you're right. I'll like them a lot less. Yeah. It's obvious if they lose game 2. But I also, hockey's weird where, Bob can go on a run and get going, and then all of a sudden they could pull ahead here anyway. So we'll see how it plays out. I think on the other side of this, we're going to talk about Dolphins here because I want to get into something. We're going to touch on this as we kind of go forward. And I want to let you pose the question on the other side of this.
Sure.
Right after a word from our sponsor. Hurricane season always around the corner in South Florida. All Pro Construction Builders, your place to go. You get the free estimate from them, but also if you mention 5 Reasons, you get 5.5% off your entire order. Quality is their specialty. Danny, this is a family business, but it's Danny and his family. You can reach out at 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. We keep repeating the name because you got to know it. They're based in Dade County, but they service Monroe and Broward as well. All Pro Construction Builders. Again, you can find them at 305-484-4429. Get yourself hurricane protected today and get your free estimate and 5.5% off. All right, let me just ask you a question here. As they are currently constituted, and there may still be some moves made after June 1st, right? There's other things in here. Are the Dolphins better, the same, or worse than they left last season?
I think at best they're the same. And I say that because, they've answered some of their questions at the line of scrimmage through draft picks, right? I liked what they did adding to both the defensive line and the offensive line with their 2nd round pick of the guard whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce, but he seems like a really good player. But, based on some of the talent that they've lost, including Teron Armstead from last year, and they're probably about to lose Jalen Ramsey in what's probably going to come down as a post-June 1st trade, maybe back to the Rams. I don't see how anyone can make an argument that the Dolphins got better in the short term. Now, obviously when you add some young pieces and you're going to have young pieces like Patrick Paul and Malik Washington and the running back room that they have, young pieces who may continue to take steps forward. I actually feel like the Dolphins might be in better position for the long term than they are in the short term, which is weird when you've got what should be a lame duck general manager right now. But I don't think the Dolphins got better, Ethan, in the short term. And I think that they may actually lose some standing within the AFC East because I think the Patriots, I fully expect have gotten better. Not sure about the New York Jets. Only time will tell with them. But I think the Dolphins, who were, competing for first place in the division the last couple of years, the Bills have continued and even enhanced their separation. And the Dolphins no longer have the type of separation over the Patriots that they had in previous years, in my humble opinion. So I don't think that they've gotten better. I wanted to pose the same question to you, and also how you feel about the likelihood of a trade of Jalen Ramsey. And it seems like his former team, the Los Angeles Rams, are the most likely destination.
Well, let me start with that one. Once you start talking about trading a player and once the player starts hinting at it publicly, it's over.
I mean, we saw that with another club in town. If
yes, right,
my memory.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I don't think you bring him to training camp now if you can avoid it. Now, Tyreek Hill's a different situation because we understand the financial constraints there. But with Ramsey, once it gets to a certain point, then I think you make the move. And I don't know that the compensation at that point matters that much. I mean, you can't cry over spilt milk in the NFL. You never recoup. Because the players depreciate so quickly. You never recoup what you trade. Okay. It just doesn't happen. And you got to get past that. And fans got to get past that. And it's very difficult for them to do that. So I think a trade will be made. As far as whether or not they're better, worse, the same, I do agree with you. They may be setting themselves up for a better foundation going forward. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be better right away. And I for a few reasons. One, I think the defensive secondary is a problem, particularly at the cornerback position. I think that's an issue. I think the defensive line, I think, will come together and has a chance to be pretty stout, but we have to see what those players look like. The offensive line looks significantly improved. But that only matters if Tua stays healthy. So it's a little bit of both, okay? It's keeping him healthy, but it's also him staying healthy to capitalize on what they have there. And we don't know that that's going to happen. I don't necessarily feel that much better about their backup quarterback situation. I'm not expecting much from the rookie. Quinn.
Well, there's just like with the backup, it's kind of the same. It's just they got younger is really what it is.
They got young. But this is the guy. This is the guy, Alex, that got passed over for Mike White in New York that year, and of course they ended up dumping Mike White. Now, I think that Zach Wilson seems to have matured a little bit. He looked pretty good in preseason last year. Do I trust him with 6 games if that happens again? No.
And then Quinn Ewers, I think getting Quinn Ewers in the 7th round, I felt like was kind of a steal, but it's not like he's ready to be a solid backup quarterback. He should still be in college, honestly.
Right, and our guy Chris Kaufman, CK Parrott, is not big on that one, and I tend to trust his judgment, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks, since he basically said Patrick Mahomes was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time while he was still in college. So I trust CK's judgment on this, and he's not a big fan of his. I think that the running game has a chance to be better simply because of the offensive line. I like that they added a little size at the receiver position, but you're right. The Patriots are going to be better than they were. The Bills are going to be the Bills. I mean, the thing about the Bills is it's kind of like the Chiefs. They're not at the same level because they can't seem to crash through it. But as long as you have the quarterback, you change the other pieces around it, you're still going to be stout, and you're still going to be difficult to dethrone. So, I mean, right now they look like a team that could be between 7 and 9 wins, depending on Tua's health. I guess, last year they finished in the middle of that. I think that's a possibility. They could be better, but they're going to have to catch lightning in a bottle in training camp. And I don't really think some of these young guys are going to pop that quick simply because there's not a precedent for it. They need total health from their pass rushers. From Phillips, from Chop's got to come back even better. He's got to be more of a 3-down player than he was last year, although he certainly showed some great things as a pass rusher. I like their linebackers better than I like them, but I don't think that this is, look, their most dynamic player for the past few years has been Tyreek Hill, and you just cannot count on that player right now. Yeah. And
I mean, think of all the stuff going on and all the stuff going on in his life, in addition to the fact that he's now a 31-year-old receiver whose entire game is predicated on his speed.
Yeah, it's not. I don't like the chances there of him giving you even a season that's better than the one we just saw. And that season was not good enough. Too many drops, too much inconsistency. Yeah. The issue outside the stadium in game 1, all the off the field stuff. So I'm just not seeing it. It would be rare for a player like that to bounce back like that after his 30s. So to answer your 2 questions, I think they look a little worse with the potential to be better than last season. Tua's health dependent. And also I think that, Jalen Ramsey should be traded and they should move on from it, even if it creates another hole there. If he's not into it, you don't want him in that room. Like, you've got a young team, you just drafted a corner. Like, you don't want him in that room if he's a malcontent. So we'll leave it there. Alex, I want to get to this and we'll close. Give me your rapid fire here. Your NBA 2nd round picks. Wolves, Warriors.
I'm going to go Wolves because I can't allow Jimmy to be happy. So I'm going Wolves.
Without his joy, but you won't allow it. Okay.
I want him to lose his joy again.
Nuggets, Thunder. Nuggets already up 1-0.
I would have gone Nuggets anyway. I believe in that team. Yeah.
You would have.
Whether they were 0-0, 1-0, I go Nuggets.
All right. Pacers, Cavs. Pacers with an upset win in game 1. Cavs obviously softened up by that tough series against the Heat.
That in which and the Pacers winning that first game made me feel even more inadequate when it came to my Miami Heat. But I'm still going to go Cleveland. I think the cream is going to rise to the top there. So I'm going to go Cleveland despite the deficit.
And last one, Knicks Celtics. Knicks win game 1. Celtics miss 55 threes.
I saw what happened in the dramatic victory and comeback the other night in overtime. But I'm still going to go with the Celtics. I think they're going to get their shit together, and I just can't. Like, I hate both teams, Ethan, but there's this weird thing where Knicks fans have been miserable for so long. I'm very petty today, Jimmy, and now this. Like, I don't want Knicks fans who haven't really legitimately been happy because they've had illegitimate times like Linsanity and Carmelo and stuff like that. But I don't want them to knock the Celtics off. So despite the Celtics blowing game 1, missing 2,000 threes, I'm going to go with the Celtics to win the series in the end. It may go 7, though. It may.
Yeah, I would be really surprised. I mean, I know the Cavs have a lot of injuries right now, but I still think we're headed, even with both teams down, for Boston, Cleveland. I think the Nuggets, I just think Jokic is too much. And that's going to lead the Thunder to do something dramatic this offseason because they have all those picks and they got to break through. So I'm going to say Nuggets. And on the other side, I hate to say it. I don't really want to do this, but I think Steph pulls it through. And I think we're looking at Nuggets Warriors.
Yeah.
By the way, the Nuggets have won something like 11 straight games against the Warriors. So if it comes to that, I feel fairly comfortable about Jimmy not making the finals, but it'll be a little close for comfort. I appreciate our sponsors, All Pro Construction Builders, Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. We'll talk some Heat on Thursday. Have a good one.